This video is going to be part one of a two-part series. I was hoping to cover all four gospel accounts in this one, but it became apparent that there's just too much text. So we're going to look at Mark and Matthew here, and then in the next session, we'll look at Luke and John. And if you think that the arrest and trial of Jesus is all one story, it's probably because few people are going to read the account in Mark, and then Matthew, and then Luke, and then John, but that's what we're going to do. And few people do that with the two birth narratives. They do some mashup of Luke and Matthew, and they call it a Christmas story or a nativity story. All right, so this is not as fun as the nativity stories. This is the arrest and trial of Jesus, so no laughing matter, obviously. All right. So I have to split these up among many slides. We're going to use two chapters or parts of chapters from Mark, and then the same from Matthew. Again, Mark is the first gospel written, and you can see a lot of stories that are retold almost exactly in Matthew from Mark. And it's presumed that Luke also used Mark as at least one of his sources. Mark 14, this is part of 42 through 72. We have to split that up, as I said. And as always, the King James Version. And for this passage, I kind of wished I didn't use the King James, but it'll work. Rise up, let us go. Lo, he that betrayeth me is at hand. And immediately, while he yet spake, cometh Judas, one of the 12, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. And he that betrayed him had given them a token, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he. Take him, and lead him away safely. And as soon as he was come, he goeth straightway to him, and saith, Master, Master, and kissed him. And they laid their hands on him, and took him. And one of them that stood by drew a sword, and smote a servant of the high priest, and cut off his ear. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Are ye come out as against a thief, with swords and with staves, to take me? I was daily with you in the temple teaching, and ye took me not. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. And they all forsook him and fled. And there followed him a certain young man, having a linen cloth cast about his naked body. And the young men laid hold on him, and he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked. Wow, I forgot about that little side story. All right, continued. And they led Jesus away to the high priest. And with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes. And Peter followed him afar off, even into the palace of the high priest. And he sat with the servants and warmed himself at the fire. And the chief priests and all the council sought for witness against Jesus to put him to death, and found none. For many bare false witness against him, but their witness agreed not together. And there arose certain, and bare false witness against him, saying, We heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. But neither so did their witness agree together. And the high priest stood up in the midst, and asked Jesus, saying, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witnesses what is it which these witness against thee? But he held his peace and answered nothing. Again the high priest asked him, and said unto him, Art thou the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? And Jesus said, I am. And ye shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, and saith, What need we any further witnesses? Ye have heard the blasphemy. What think ye? And they all condemned him to be guilty of death. Notice there are no Romans involved in that. And some began to spit on him, and to cover his face, and to buffet him, and to say unto him, Prophesy. And the servants did strike him with the palms of their hands. And as Peter was beneath in the palace, there cometh one of the maids of the high priest. And when she saw Peter warming himself, she looked upon him and said, And thou also wast with Jesus of Nazareth. But he denied, saying, I know not, neither understand I what thou sayest. And he went out into the porch, and the cock crew. And a maid saw him again, and began to say to them that stood by, This is one of them. And he denied it again. And a little after, they that stood by said again to Peter, Surely thou art one of them, for thou art a Galilean, and thy speech agreeth thereto. But he began to curse and to swear, saying, I know not this man of whom ye speak. And the second time the cock crew. And Peter called to mind the word that Jesus said unto him, Before the cock crow twice, thou shalt deny me thrice. And when he thought thereon, he wept. Mark 15, 1 through 15. And straightway in the morning the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and bound Jesus and carried him away, and delivered him to Pilate. And Pilate asked him, Art thou the king of the Jews? And he answering said unto him, Thou sayest it. And the chief priests accused him of many things, but he answered nothing. And Pilate asked him again, saying, Answerest thou nothing? Behold, how many things they witness against thee. But Jesus yet answered nothing, so that Pilate marveled. Now at that feast he released unto them one prisoner, whomsoever they desired. And there was one named Barabbas, I think that means son of the Father, which lay bound with them that had made insurrection with him, who had committed murder in the insurrection. Yeah, they're going to release him. And the multitude crying aloud began to desire him to do as he had ever done unto them. But Pilate answered them, saying, Will ye that I release unto you the King of the Jews? For he knew that the chief priests had delivered him for envy. But the chief priests moved the people, that he should rather release Barabbas unto them. And Pilate answered and said again unto them, What will ye then that I shall do unto him whom ye call the King of the Jews? And they cried out again, Crucify him. Then Pilate said unto them, Why, what evil hath he done? And they cried out the more exceedingly, Crucify him. And so Pilate, willing to content the people, released Barabbas unto them, and delivered Jesus, when he had scourged him, to be crucified. All right, let's do a quick review. Judas betrays him with the kiss. There's a lot of force being used to arrest him. Um, Somebody draws a sword and slices off an ear. That seems unlikely. I mean, even physically, how could you slice off an ear without going right through the collarbone? Take him to the high priest. So all of this is being done among the Jews. He hasn't been turned over to the Roman authority yet. He doesn't like to answer any of the charges, even when Pilate is asking him. We have to work in the story of Peter, which changes among the Gospels. How many times does the cock crew, the crow? Again, it's still the chief priests that are doing this, but then they did deliver him to Pilate. And now there's this strange idea that it's like a game show. I guess is it because it's the Passover? But he's going to release one of these prisoners. One is Barabbas, and he was a violent insurrectionist, usually according to John Dominic Crossan. Rome, if it's a violent insurrection, they crucify everybody involved. If it's a nonviolent insurrection, they just crucify the leader, and that tended to make an example. And that's why, the historical Jesus was probably considered to be in a nonviolent insurrection, and so only he had to be crucified in the worst ways imaginable to be killed. And Pilate doesn't see anything wrong with him, but he's willing to go with the crowd, even though that's not how Josephus describes Pilate. But it's the priests again who are telling the people, come on, say Barabbas, say Barabbas. Make it a little bit of a game. All right, so Mark's the first gospel. Matthew includes so much of Mark that it would seem silly that he didn't have some version of Mark to use as one of his sources. And then he adds a lot of things. But here, it'll probably just be a few details, I'm thinking. Not like adding a birth narrative when Mark had none. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, that's almost the same as Mark, isn't it? Yeah. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves, from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he. hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Jesus and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Oh, it's Shakespeare. Then came they and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then said Jesus unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? I've always wondered why you didn't do that, frankly. Continuing, but how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled? That's what Matthew always cares about. That thus it must be. In that same hour said Jesus to the multitudes, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this was done, that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. And they that had laid hold on Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Nothing about warming himself by the fire. Now the chief priests and elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. And the last came 2 false witnesses, and said, This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God, and to build it in 3 days. And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace. I never understood that. This is not, to me, a time to be quiet. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless I say unto you, Hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. Then did they spit in his face, and buffeted him. And others smote him with the palms of their hands, saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Then did they spit in his face, and buffeted him. And others smote him with the palms of their hands, saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Who is he that smote thee? Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, Thou also wast with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him, and said unto them that were there, This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said to Peter, Surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly. Continued. Matthew 27, 1 through 26. Matthew has a lot more to say than Mark. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. That seems like verbatim, Mark. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate the governor. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned, in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, What is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed, and went and hanged himself. And the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, It is not lawful for to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. And they took counsel, and bought with them the potter's field, to bury strangers in. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet. Who is Jeremy? Saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field as the Lord appointed me. And Jesus stood before the governor. And the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him to never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner, whom they would. And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas, which means son of the Father. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas, and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Okay, so let's do the usual review. Go all the way back to Mark. This is, forgot how much text was involved with just this scene. This is not even the crucifixion yet. Okay, so Mark, first gospel written. Remember this phrase, and immediately while he yet spake, cometh Judas, one of the 12, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. How does Matthew do that? And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves from the chief priests and elders of the people. Eyewitness accounts. What? Mark or Matthew's supposed to be one of the 12, and he's relying on Mark's version. Eyewitnesses. People. In both Mark and Matthew, Pilate is an unwilling participant, even though Josephus or Flavius Josephus describes Pontius Pilate in great detail, and he describes Herod, and this does not match the historical Pontius Pilate, or probably any Roman governor. But it gets much worse in Matthew. In Mark, what does he say? He marveled. Okay, but he does the which prisoner should I release to you? As John Dominic Crossan would explain, Rome crucified every participant of a violent insurrection. The idea that they may release the leader, no, everybody is crucified there. The historical Jesus was probably crucified because it was a nonviolent insurrection. In those cases, they crucified the leader. They tended to make their point. Usually, the movement died. But he does use Barabbas, and the multitude wants Barabbas released. Will ye that I release unto you the King of the Jews? Well, that's going to fire them up, the King of the Jews. But the chief priests manipulated the crowd, and so Pilate says, What will ye then that I shall do unto him whom ye call the King of the Jews? And they said, crucify him. And Pilate said, why? What evil has he done? Crucify him. And he wanted to please the people, so he let Barabbas go and he delivered Jesus. Okay. But now we got the feast. We're going to maybe release Jesus or Barabbas. Barabbas, son of the Father, Abbas. So which one should I release? And they say, oh, yeah, this is Pilate's dream. Okay, his wife had a dream, apparently. Jesus Christ Superstar, there was Pilate's dream. Um, but the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude to ask for Barabbas. Which one? They said Barabbas. And he said, what shall I do then with Jesus? Let him be crucified. He said, why? What evil hath he done? The real Pilate say, well, the real Pilate, it wouldn't be offering Barabbas. He wouldn't care one way or the other. I don't even think he would let a meal be interrupted over something like this. But they said, let him be crucified. Pilate said, saw that he couldn't prevail. He took water and washed his hands before the multitude. That's from Sympathy from the Devil. I made damn sure Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. And the people said, his blood be on us and on our children. Oh, that's where that charge of deicide may come from. Yep. So if you've ever wondered where this wacky idea that the Jews are all Christ killers, it could be just from this. His blood be on us and on our children. Okay. Then he released Barabbas. And when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. How could how could his blood be on us or our children? I mean, that's just weird metaphorical talk. The idea that Pilate cares one way or the other, or that he has this sort of game show approach, is all very bizarre. The Gospels are accounts. They are written from some oral tradition and maybe some written text, but the writers are making up stories to show you the importance of Jesus, the message as they see it. Each of the four Gospels has its own theology, and it is pretty wild that in just one version, with a few lines, his blood be on us and on our children. That was used to persecute Jews for so long. Probably still is. Wow. That's kind of shocking. So Mark and Matthew agree more than any of the others are going to agree with themselves or with these. I'll look at Luke and John. I'm planning to do it in just one session. I don't know, though Luke and John can get really verbose, so I might have to split that up. But you'll see that whether you're reading Mark or Matthew, Luke or John, you're getting a separate account. Whether it's the birth narratives, which only two have, they all have the Passion of the Christ, and this is part of that, but they don't line up as much as people would like to pretend, except when you try to say that Matthew's an eyewitness and then he's almost copying Mark verbatim. That is wacky. All right, we're going to go ahead and end part one. And as I said, I'm going to try to look at Luke and John in part two. Please like and subscribe and check out the book, Think Again, on Amazon KDP or KDP Amazon. It is a paperback, ebook, or audiobook.